Hi everyone, my name is Naomi Heisler, and today I'm going to be talking about the issue of e-waste in Guiyu, China. So here's sort of the table of contents of what exactly I'll be discussing. First, I'll be summarizing the issue, I'll be defining what e-waste is, I'll be talking about sort of e-waste and soil, the ecological risk of e-waste, legislation. I'll be concluding, summarizing up exactly what we've learned, and then you'll have my works cited slide in case anyone's interested in learning more. So first off, I'm going to be talking about the issue of what exactly e-waste is. I'll be giving everyone a brief primer on this and then discussing the situation in Guiyu, China, which is one of the world's largest e-waste breakdown sites. Then next, I'll be talking about the public health implications of the e-waste industry in Guiyu, ending the presentation with some examples of measures that China and the international community have taken to regulate and control the e-waste industry in order to prevent further negative health impacts. So e-waste is a growing environmental health issue, and it has extremely negative health implications on populations impacted. So in case you haven't heard of e-waste, it's the recycling and breaking down of discarded electronics. So for example, when you're not using your phone anymore, your computer's not longer usable, that would be considered e-waste. When we take these products in to get recycled, they're usually exported abroad to companies in the developing world. Some of the main e-waste products of concern are batteries, cathode ray tubes, wiring, and LCD displays. And our increased use of technology, along with the fact that cell phones and laptops and other items tend to grow obsolete and need to be replaced, this means that this is one of our fastest growing sources of e-waste. And then in 2016, it was estimated that there were about 44.7 metric tons of e-waste produced worldwide, with only about 20% of that being properly recycled. So this chart shows the sort of sharp and steady increase of e-waste over the last decade, moving from around 35 metric tons in 2010 to a projected 50 metric tons in 2018. So it's only going to continue to rise. Guiyu, China is one of the largest e-waste recycling sites in the world. There's about 100,000 migrant workers engaging in this work. There's about 300 official companies and 3,000 individual informal e-waste breakdown sites. And then it's estimated that about 20 out of 28 of the area's villages work in e-waste recycling. But again, these figures are sort of hard to actually really fully quantify because a lot of the e-waste breakdown trade is done through illegal and informal channels. So as you can see from this graph, this has a lot of negative health implications. Guiyu has far higher amounts of heavy metal in its farmland soil than a nearby reference site did. This is especially true for copper, lead, and for chromium, where the discrepancies are quite high. And this creates quite a few health risks for the population of Guiyu, especially for its children, through oral ingestion or skin contact with contaminated soil. And then based off of the presence of heavy metals in Guiyu's soil, generated from this extensive amount of e-waste breakdown, researchers looked at a few different samples that were collected in the area to create levels of ecological risk based off of each heavy metal. So as we can see from this chart, chromium and zinc pose a relatively low ecological risk to the soil, while cadmium and mercury are of a particularly high concern, and then these chemicals all have some carcinogenic effects which put Guiyu's residents at risk. Another major public health implication of e-waste, both in Guiyu and in other recycling sites worldwide, is air pollution. In a 2018 study, researchers took dust samples in two areas of Guiyu, one from an unauthorized recycling center and one reference sample from a non-recycling site. They tested each sample for the presence of 5 different heavy metals: cadmium, chromium, copper, lead, and zinc. And then as you can see from this chart, the unauthorized site had higher concentrations of each metal, particularly copper and lead, when compared to the reference sample. And then similarly, when researchers tested indoor dust in homes that were occupied by Guiyu's laborers, they found higher concentrations of each of these metals than they did in the homes of native inhabitants offsite. So over the past decade, China has taken legislative steps to help reduce the problem of unsafe e-waste breakdown. So this first chart is showing some of the legislative advances that China has made from 2000 to 2011, and that's been done both through representative channels like the National People's Congress and then also through its Ministry of Environment. And then as you can see from the second chart, one of these that I found particularly interesting was the Specialized E-Waste Fund, which details, as you can see from this graph that I made, subsidies that are given to e-waste recycling centers, and then also fees that producers have to pay per unit sold. It's important to note that the township of Guiyu has also banned recently certain e-waste disposal practices that are unsafe, such as the burning of electronics or soaking e-waste in sulfuric acid. There's still quite a bit of e-waste breakdown that's done through informal channels, even though it's officially against Chinese law to import e-waste. And then also, since a lot of the e-waste breakdown trade is done through the informal economy, like I said before, it's pretty difficult to achieve full regulation of the e-waste industry, especially since it's usually cheaper for companies to operate through these informal channels. So to conclude, e-waste is a serious issue both in Guiyu and worldwide, and then as our global use of technology increases, the issue is going to continue to impact the health and livelihoods both of the people in Guiyu and the people who live in other e-waste breakdown sites worldwide. While governing bodies are beginning to understand the magnitude of e-waste, there's clearly still a lot of work to be done in mitigating the harm that it has caused and will continue to cause. So here are some of my works cited. If anyone's interested in learning more, my net ID is there. Feel free to email me, and I'm happy to send you these sources that I looked up that were really helpful and informative. Thank you so much, and I hope that you enjoyed this.